Hello, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box just below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and spinning and crochet. Welcome to our weekly chat where I really just sit and waffle about what I've been making in the last week. It's been a bit of a strange week, and if you've watched my extras you'll know that my anxiety levels have been a bit high this week and my concentration levels have been a bit up and down, and I think that's kind of reflected in my making this week. I've got knitting and spinning for you this week, no crochet I'm afraid, but both in spinning and knitting things have not gone to plan for the most part. There have been a couple of successes, but other things have just gone awry, and I think it's just kind of like an outer reflection of my inward mood, and that's just okay. I'm going to sit and talk to you about them anyway because I think for me it's just as fun to talk about things that didn't work out exactly as I had imagined them in my head, because I think we all have those projects and we can all relate to those circumstances. Anyway, let's get cracking. I think I'll start with spinning this week. I've got a finished spin, an almost finished spin, and work in progress to share with you this week. So first off, my finished spin, I have finished the lovely trilogy set that I was spinning from Curio Yarns in the Monster Mash colourway. That highlighter green just completely blows out every time on the video. It is a gorgeous, really bright sort of greeny yellow colour, and I can never get the camera to show it off to its true colour potential. It just looks so much brighter than it even is in real life. It was 100% Blue Face Leicester, 150 grams in this trilogy set. Basically there were 50 grams of each beautifully dyed colourway. I had finished this one last week, and so this week I have managed to ply this one and spin and ply this one. And I really love how these beautiful yarns have turned out. I chain plied them and I spun them on my wheel, which is a vintage Haldane Shetland, and it's made for a really lovely plump round yarn, and the colours, particularly in these two, are just glorious. This also has a really nice depth of colour, but I'm truly in love with the two shades, this sort of rusty brown and this kind of charcoaly blue tinged colour. They're just gorgeous. I was hoping to spin these for a shawl, but my 3-ply turned out after soaking to be a lot bouncier and a lot rounder than I had intended. I suspected that maybe I should have stuck to a 2-ply, but for some reason at the moment I'm really into the chain plying. I'm really pleased with the finished yarn, but I just won't be able to put them into the project that I hoped. I'm keeping this one away from the camera because it is just blowing everything out, but yeah, I ended up with about 250 meters all told from 150 grams, so it's around about a DK weight, but not enough meterage to make the project that I originally intended. So this spin didn't go entirely to plan, so I won't be casting on for the project that I had in mind, but I'm sure I will find something for this yarn because it really is delicious. I could have forced the issue a little bit and tried to spin finer, but sometimes I find anyway, at least, that the fibre just tells me what it wants to be, and I could have tried to force the issue and spin finer, but it wouldn't have been a fun spinning experience. And the thing that I love about spinning is just the meditative nature of sitting at the wheel and just feeling the fibre sort of fly through your fingers and just letting that fibre turn into some beautiful yarn. And yeah, as I say, sometimes the fibre just wants to be what it wants to be, and it doesn't always want to be exactly what I want it to be. Maybe that will come in time as my spinning skills improve, but for me spinning is not about precision and aiming for that perfect yarn. It's just about the joy of the act of spinning itself. So I'm sure I will find a lovely project to use these 3 yarns in at some point. My second finished spin is a drop spindling project. It's almost finished. It does need to be washed and set, but I wanted to show it to you on the spindle before I washed it, because this spindle is jam full. It's probably the fullest spindle I have ever spun. It looks like a giant candy floss, doesn't it? So if you watched my Friday video, my Yarn and Yarns Extra, where I was just chatting and spinning at the beach, this is what I was working on. And it was a beautiful textured bat that was gifted to me along with the spindle earlier on this year. And I was just having fun letting it be what it wanted to be. And it's like highly textured. You can see all of these sort of slubby bits and sort of neppy bits, just lots and lots of lovely texture. And although this spindle is jam-packed, it just feels so light. You know, it weighs next to nothing. And I think this yarn's going to be a lot of fun once it's finished. I'm planning on leaving it as a singles because I think I've spun it sort of tightly enough that it's going to hold together okay. And I just really love kind of like the fun art yarny texture that has come from spinning this bat. So yes, I sort of picked this back up in earnest on Friday, was spinning it at the beach and just carried on over the weekend until the bat is finished. So yes, I just need to wind that off and set it, and I'm thinking about possibly using it in a weaving project rather than a knitting project, but I'm going to skein it up and it will probably ruminate in my stash for a little while until it decides exactly what it wants to be. I finished the Curio Yarns trilogy on Saturday. I finished plying the last section of that yarn. So on Sunday I pulled out some more fibre from my stash to start spinning. You might remember me mentioning a couple of times this year that I signed up to the Nellie and Eve Fibre Club. That's the Nellie and Eve. They're a lovely small producer here in Wales. Helen is the lady behind Nellie and Eve. And she does a lot of natural dyeing. I think she does some acid dyeing as well. But at the start of the year, she started a fibre club. And each month I get a surprise package in the mail with some fibre that's been beautifully dyed with plant-based materials. My club is stacking up a little bit. I've got one project on a spindle, which is downstairs, and I've got 2 boxes of fibre waiting to be spun, and the third is in my basket here. So I'll show you a little clip of what the package looked like straight out of the box. I'll pop that in here. When I split the braid down, actually let me grab that postcard again. So this was the February club, so no spoilers, it's long since passed. And the message on the card says, with all of the storms we've had, you wouldn't be wrong in thinking that this month's club box would be full of grey. But I've turned that on its head and gone for pale neutrals that can happily blend together, or with stronger colours to add a little calm or a pack of punch depending on the mood of the day. I think you can see that coming across in the shot of the fibre that I've just shown. As I kind of unwound the fibre, this is half of the fibre. I can show you there were lots of sort of little separate strips in that braid that had already been stripped out, and there were several different colours. So I think you can see there's a lovely sort of pale minty green, there's some yellow, and this is more peachy than it's looking in real life. So that kind of like made up about 50 grams worth of the fibre, and then the other 50 grams was this lovely, what I would call sort of oatmeal-y, pale camel sort of colour. So what I decided to do was take all of that out and strip that down and pre-draft it, and I'm going to spin all of this to one bobbin, and then I'm going to spin these colours just as they come to another bobbin, and then I'm going to ply them together to make a 2-ply. So that's what's on the wheel at the moment. I'm probably about halfway through the camel fibre, but I've left the bobbin on the wheel downstairs because it's all set up and spinning nicely, and I didn't want to sort of jinx that. So that's what I'm going to be working on this week. I distinctly remember saying that if you don't have time to watch the Yarn and Yarns extra videos, you won't miss out on anything. And then last week, after I stopped recording, I realised that I had neglected to show off a new spindle, and I did do a Yarn and Yarns extra video about this spindle, but then I forgot to mention it in last week's podcast in the acquisitions segment. So I received in the mail a lovely Glamorgan, which is a traditional Scottish spindle, and they're often referred to as Scottish spindles rather than Glamorgans, but it's a really unusual type of spindle that I hadn't come across before. The only reason I was aware of it was from an article in Spin-Off magazine from a couple of years ago. And when I was having a search around on Etsy the other week, I found a UK seller who was making these, and so I decided to purchase one. And if you haven't watched the video, you can see me ineptly having a go at spinning on my Glamorgan for the first time. I also, if you remember me talking about ordering spindles, I ordered a second spindle all the way from Canada, from a Etsy shop. I think it's called Viscount Wood Turning, and that has also arrived. And this beautiful bog oak spindle, so this section here is bog oak, and it can be used as a drop spindle, and I've been having a little play on that this week, having a go, but it can also be used as a supported spindle, and I've not tried supported spindling yet, so I'm definitely going to have a go at that, but I'm going to finish just spinning up this little sample first before I move on to trying out a little bit of supported spindling. But both of these are just things of beauty. I am so happy to have added these to my spindle collection. On to knitting. I have a finished object to show you and several works in progress, a couple of which need to be ripped back. I started off the week on a high because I finished my Chances wrap, which had been my oldest work in progress. I realised I started it back in May 2018, so almost 2 years in the making. And it's now finished. So it's a lovely brioche wrap. The pattern employs all sorts of different techniques in brioche. There's 2-colour brioche, 1-colour brioche, there's sort of garter stitch brioche, all different kind of techniques in each of the sections, and it's a huge long wrap. This is the centre point here, and then it goes all the way out down this way too. And last week I'd finished the knitting of the main body, but I just had the I-cord edging to add, so that is now done, and I couldn't be happier with this. It's huge, it's beautiful, and it's going to keep me very warm and cozy. Let me just try and wrap this round and we'll see how many times it goes. So 1, 2, 3, and probably 4 if I reorganised it a little bit. So that is going to keep me so nice and cozy and warm. I don't need it today. It's very windy here in South Wales today, but the sun is out at times, and it's still pretty warm, so this will be going away and coming out next autumn probably. So soft and squishy, and I just love it. So my week started well with a lovely finished object. The pattern is by Charlotte Boré, who is Bee Charlie over on Instagram. I'll link to my project page below. And the yarns I used were from Countess Ablaze. So let me see if I can find the yarns. So this one is Countess Ablaze. I had 2 from Yantan Tethery Yarns. And then the 4th skein was a lovely gift from my friend Erin, and it comes from Cauldron of Colour. So yeah, I've got reasonable quantities of all of those left, and I might have a play around with that colour combination and maybe make myself some shorty socks with the leftovers. So yes, Chances wrap done, and I'm really pleased with the finished object. I need at some point to try and take some pictures of that, though how on earth I'm going to do it, it's so huge, I have no idea. That's a problem for another day. After the Chances wrap came off the needles, I wanted to move on to another shawl project, which is one of my 12 cast-ons, and it's also the last project that I have set myself as an informal goal of trying to finish in the second quarter of 2020, and it's my Vertices Unite, which is a pattern by Stephen West. The last time you saw this project, it was here, where the Christmas tree marker is, and since then I knit from where the marker is to the end of section 1, and I wanted to make my Vertices Unite from some lovely naturally dyed yarns that I have. The two that I'm using here, the brown is from Hey Mama Wolf, and the blue is from Flourish Fibres, my lovely friend Fiona Fee. So yes, section 1 done, and I really love how those two colours work together. So I started section 2, so I've picked up and started the first little section, which again is another striping section. However, this is one of the projects that's going to be ripped back. I'm using two gorgeous skeins, again naturally dyed, of Corriedale yarn from Tracy, who is handmade over yonder. And I love these two yarns. These colours are beautiful, but I'm not a fan of how these colours are playing with these colours. These two are much brighter and these are much more muted. I have one more skein in my bag that I was hoping to put into my Vertices Unite. Another one from Fiona of Flourish Fibres, which is a lovely sort of mustardy colour, and I think those go really nicely with the blue and the brown section. But yeah, I'm just, as I say, not a fan of how these colours are mixing. So I have decided I'm going to rip this section back, and these two yarns from Handmade Over Yonder will make it into another project of their own, because I love how they work together. They're so beautifully fresh and spring-like. So I've ordered another skein of yarn from V of Flourish Fibres, which I'm hoping will mix in a little bit better with the sort of brown and the blue. I do need 5 colours for the Vertices Unite. Having a look in Fee's Etsy shop, and I wasn't entirely sure which other colour to go with, so I'm going to wait until the first skein arrives and then I'll have a little think about where to proceed. So this project may be going on the back burner for a little bit while I work out my colour choices for the next sections of that. So yes, first project of the week that's going to stand for some ripping out, but I think I'll be much happier with the outcome once I rejig that a little bit and have a rethink on the colours that I'm going to use. I started on a whim a new pair of socks in the week. I just grabbed a skein of yarn that was already bagged up and took it to the beach with me and cast on and knit the first pattern repeat with some beautiful yarn that was sent to me by Angela and Andrew of Attic Spin Dye in their Lemmy colourway. And I was going to pair it with a pattern called the Bonnie Banks sock, which was gifted to me by my lovely friend Lou. I wasn't entirely sure if this would work out because I knew that this lovely Lemmy colourway had a sort of striping effect to it, and the Bonnie Banks socks is a lovely sort of delicate lace pattern, but I thought it'd be interesting to see how they would work together. So the Bonnie Banks socks is a lovely sort of short sock, and I did knit the first pattern repeat. And while it's interesting, I think you can see that sort of movement of the colour where the lace work is disrupting it. I think just the yarn and the pattern are just fighting with each other too much. I am going to also be ripping back this sock. I'm going to rip back to the cuff, and I'm going to knit this beautiful yarn just into a vanilla sock. And I think the lovely colours in this yarn will just really sing and shine. So yeah, that was a fun experiment. It didn't quite work, but I always had in the back of my mind that maybe they wouldn't be the best pairing, but I wanted to give it a go anyway. So yeah, 2 projects this week that haven't really gone to plan, but that's okay. Some weeks are like that, aren't they? I've also worked on my Simple Something sweater this week, and I will quickly show that to you. There's not too much to say on that, but I've got the sweater to the point where I've split for the sleeves, and I'm now currently working on the sleeves. So if you remember, this is going to be the inside of the sweater. You basically hold 2 strands of fingering weight together throughout this project, and then the project, once the sweater's finished, the reverse stockinette side becomes the right side. So let's just flip this inside out. So yes, this side will eventually be the right side of the sweater. I'm currently working on the sleeves because I would like the sleeves to be matching if I can get them to be so. And then I'm going to go back and do the body. I'm not worried about the body matching the sleeves because the aim of this is to use up as many scraps as possible. So some of these colours that I'm using in the sleeves, I won't have any left over for the body, but that's okay. But I wanted the 2 sleeves to be as cohesive as possible. So yes, I'm just working away on those. I need to keep track of these because the pattern says to knit so many rows between decreases. I'm not sure if I'm on row gauge or not because the sleeves are growing pretty quickly and I'm not even halfway through the decreases yet. It's an oversized sweater, so once I've got it on, the raglan falls are such that these sleeves are already sort of down to my elbows, so I just need to keep an eye on that as I go along. I've got a little bit of an incentive that I've set myself for working on this project because I really want to start a new project and a new sweater project at that. You might have watched my Yarn and Yarns extra video where I was ruminating on whether to rip out one of my oldest works in progress, and the reason I want to rip it out is because I was obsessing about a pattern by Jennifer Steingass called the Aurelius sweater, which was kindly gifted to me recently. And you know when you get those ideas in your head and they just won't go away. I had some lovely hand-spun yarn that I wanted to use in the yoke of the Aurelius. I didn't really have anything in my stash that would go with that yarn, aside from this beautiful navy blue, which was already in a project, the Incunabula cardigan by Carrie Westerman, which was one of my 12 cast-ons, not this year but the year before. But I just hadn't really felt drawn to work on the Incunabula, and I think it was I love the pattern, I love the yarn, but I wasn't really in love with the combination of the two together, so I hadn't really felt drawn to work on that. So instead I decided to whip up a quick swatch, and it is really small and really quick, using the hand spun and the navy yarn together. Actually, I'm just going to rip these needles out because I'm not going to knit anymore on the swatch, and it'll be a bit easier to show you when it's not on the DPNs. And I really love how these 2 yarns are playing together. This is obviously a really small swatch, so the colour distribution will be slightly different in a sort of yoke on the sweater, but I think I love this, how it's looking, and I definitely want to rip out the Incunabula and work on the Aurelius sweater. But because I've also got lots of other projects on needles and lots of other sweaters, before I start the Aurelius, I am setting myself a goal of at least finishing the sleeves on the Simple Something. Otherwise, I'm just going to have loads of projects on the go, and none of them are really going to have seen much progress. Now that I've kind of made a decision and knit the swatch, that's kind of got the sense of urgency out of my head. I couldn't stop thinking about this project. Now I have made a decision, I've made my little swatch, I know it's going to happen. I can feel a bit less obsessive about that idea in my head, and I'm happy to carry on with something else that I've got on the needles, with the incentive that this will be a nice little reward cast on once I have made some progress on one of my works in progress. So yes, that's everything I've been making this week. It's been a little bit just disjointed, not much progress on anything much, but it's just been one of those weeks. How's your week been? I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has been commenting on the Yarn and Yarns extra videos. I really do appreciate the interactions that we have on those videos. I'm posting quite a lot of content at the moment, so for those of you who have been keeping up with all of that and chatting with me over on those videos, I really do appreciate the time that we're spending together at the moment. As always, I want to say a very big thank you to anyone who has supported the channel by sending a coffee donation in the last couple of weeks. I really do appreciate you helping me to try and keep the content coming and keep improving the videos that I put up here on Yarn and Yarns. If you're not able to support the channel in that way, I completely understand. By watching and liking and subscribing and sharing that you're watching, you're here supporting both the channel and the community that's growing up around the channel, and I really do appreciate that. We are creeping towards 600 subscribers here on the channel, which just completely blows me away. And if we get there over the next couple of weeks, then I might do another giveaway. If you'd like to participate in our make-alongs, we've got 2 going on. I'm not very good at keeping up with the Ravelry group, I have to confess that, and I think I've confessed that all the way through, but I do my best. We have 2 make-alongs going on. We've got the 12 cast-ons make-along, which is a year-long make-along for anything that you finished, that you started back at the beginning of the year as part of our 12 cast-ons. And then we also have the new techniques make-along, and we have a lovely skein of yarn that was sponsored by Angela and Andy at Attic Spin Dye to give away for that make along. What you have to do to participate in that is try something that's new to you. You don't have to finish the project, you just have to participate. So hop on over to the Ravelry group and post a picture of what you've been trying that's something new to you. It could be a new technique, a new stitch pattern, a whole new craft, whatever you like really. Just chat away over there and post what you've been making, and I shall draw a winner from that thread at some point at the beginning of June. All that remains for me to say is thank you so much for spending time with me this week, and until we get to spend time together again, I hope that you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.